Today we're going to be taking a look at 75406 Kylo Ren's Command Shuttle. This set will be releasing on May 1st with 386 pieces and a retail price of $70 US. Yes, this set is going to retail for $70 US, really making it one of the most overpriced sets of the year so far. But real quick, I want to talk about the box art, and that's because the all black 18 plus box art is really hindering this set. And that's clearly because the ship is all black and there's just no contrast at all. The ship just blends in with the box art. Obviously there's that red glow behind the ship, but it doesn't really help that much. And from far away, this thing is just not very noticeable. And when most people walk into a Lego store, I feel like this is going to be one of the last sets that catches their eye just because there's no contrast on the box art. The all black 18 plus box art was a decent gimmick for a while. There's some sets it definitely worked with and looked cool with, but in this set in particular, it's really handicapping it. And in my opinion, I think it's about time Lego goes back to colored box arts for these sets, or at the very least, a colored background with the black trim at the bottom. But front box art aside, the rest of the box art looks cool. You're going to see a back view of the ship on the side, as well as a much better picture on the back where you're going to see it in its landing position, as well as some pictures from the ship in the movies. And then on the right side, you're going to have the dimensions of the ship, which is 5 inches wide and 13 inches tall. Now opening up the box and dumping out the contents, you're going to find just 3 numbered bags. Yeah, 3 numbered bags for $70. 2 bags for the wings and then 1 bag for the cockpit of the ship. You're also going to have your instruction manual where on the first few pages there is some nice information to read about Kylo Ren's Command Shuttle and the design process of the ship that you can pause and read if you want to. Now taking a look at the actual model itself, I have to say the wingspan is actually quite a bit larger than I was expecting it to be, and the ship overall definitely has its highs and its lows, a lot of lows. One thing I do have to say though is I really enjoyed the build process. It was super fast and fun and simple. There were just some pretty interesting techniques used throughout the build that made it kind of fun. But that's just the build process. The actual set itself is definitely not perfect. But first I want to take a look at the display stand. On the front you're obviously going to have your printed plaque that says Kylo Ren's Command Shuttle, and then the display stand itself is just your typical MIDI scale display stand. It's pretty much exactly the same as the other ones, and if you're wondering how it connects to the ship, there's just a Technic rod that sticks out that you can use to very easily attach and detach the ship from. The top of the cockpit, or the hull, whatever you want to call it, actually looks pretty good. There's a fair amount of detail on it, and then you're going to have the engines back here that also look quite nice. They're very simple, but they get the job done. However, despite the top of this area having some detail, the actual front of the cockpit itself is way too narrow. Yes, I know in universe this area of the ship is slightly shaped like a triangle, like what they tried to do in the set here, but they overdid it. The front is just way too narrow and it kind of throws it off for me. Based on that transparent piece right there, you can tell it's only 2 studs wide when it definitely should have been 4 studs wide. It would have made it look way more accurate and way more proportional. However, this cockpit actually does have one cool thing about it, and that's that if you break the top pieces off, you can just barely see back there a little General Hux and a little Kylo Ren. And when you come to this part of the build in the instructions, there's actually a little paragraph at the bottom that you can pause and read if you want to. Now, the inside of the wings, specifically just the inside, actually look pretty good. There's not a whole lot going on. It's really just the top of the plates with some minor detailing here and there, along with some decent detail at the bottom, and then you have the actual cannons on each wing that look pretty good. However, it starts to go downhill very quickly when you fold the wings up into its landing position, and that's because the bottom of the wings are just straight anti-studs. There's nothing going on, just straight bland anti-studs. And to be brutally honest, I think this just looks downright ugly. I think they definitely should have put some inverted tiles back here just to give it some detail and not make it so bland and boring looking with the wings folded up like this. But no, it's literally just the bottoms of the plates, and again, it just does not look good at all. If you are someone that actually ends up getting this set, the best way to display it is without a doubt with the wings open so you don't have to see the outside of them. And speaking of opening and closing the wings, I guess I should show you how you do that. There's no special technique or function or anything. They're just on hinges and you just pull them open and close them back. And I'm not gonna lie, using just hinges to connect the wings here is not the greatest design choice. One, because the wings are very flimsy and wobbly, as you can see here. They just move around all over the place and can break off very easily. And also the wings are a bit heavy, and sometimes the hinges on their own just aren't strong enough to hold them up. So when you try to pose it in different positions, they tend to just fall all the way down. And I think for a set you're paying $70 for, this is honestly just kind of unacceptable. There's really no reason as to why they couldn't have used some type of Technic method to connect these wings. It would have made them a lot stronger and have a lot more posability. But no, there's just hinges, and it's just kind of cheap feeling in my opinion. Except the set itself is not cheap. You're paying $70 for it. Now again, it's not completely terrible. There are some good things like the detail around the cockpit and the detail of the inside of the wings, but those few things alone really don't make up for all the bad things that I mentioned. And then again, on top of all of that, it's overpriced. $70 is just too far. I think this would have been a great maybe $55 to $60 set, but $70? No. And I would say to wait until this set goes on sale somewhere from $50 to $60 before you get it. However, at the same time, there's two other midi scale sets that are in that $50 to $60 price range, being the Acclimator and the Invisible Hand, that are both significantly better than this set. And it's not only because they're cheaper, it's because their builds are just better looking, and they have way better structural integrity. And don't even get me started on the other ones you could get for $70. I'm feeling a solid 6 out of 10 for this set. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you see on the screen right now.